Let me ask you, you're leading in the overall popular vote through the first 4 state contests. Are you the new front runner?
Well, I think we got a long way to go. Look, this was a big boost for us. I think we're going to do well in a number of states, but Super Tuesday we're only 3 days away, and we're in a situation where we're just beginning to raise the kind of money we thought we'd be able to raise in the front end. We've raised about $18 million this month, $5 million just since the victory or during the victory in South Carolina. So we're feeling good, but it's a long way to go, Jake.
And Senator Sanders obviously has a lot of money and a lot of organization. Right now, you trail him. You're second place when it comes to delegates, leading the rest of your fellow non-Sanders candidates. Have there been any conversations about consolidating the field to take on Senator Sanders? And if not, do there need to be, you think?
Well, I haven't had any conversations along those lines. But I think it's going to be a decision for the rest of the field to make as they move forward. I'm not going to presume to tell anyone they should drop out and take on Bernie Sanders. I think everyone knows that it's going to be much more difficult to win back the Senate and keep the House if Bernie's at the top of the ticket. But that's a judgment for them to make, and I think that'll sort of work itself out in the near term.
I know you say that the theory of the case on the Sanders side is that he inspires excitement among voters and will be able to bring out more voters, people who sat out 2016. And it's true that his rallies and events draw crowds that we do not see among any other person running for president on the Democratic side. How are you going to be able to fix that excitement gap, enthusiasm gap?
Well,
go ahead.
No, good. Well, I was in North Carolina yesterday up in Raleigh. We had 1,000 people show up. Look, the idea that there's a direct correlation between the number of people who rally and the number of people who turn out. We had the largest turnout in South Carolina, and I think that was no small part because of our campaign. And we won every single solitary county in the state. And as you said, we won convincingly. That doesn't mean I'll do that everywhere, but what's happening is that look, people aren't looking for a revolution, in my view. What they're looking for is they're looking for results. They're looking for getting things done. And Bernie doesn't have a very good track record of getting things done in the United States Congress, the United States Senate. And much of what he's proposing is very, very much pie in the sky. He's talking about spending $60 trillion and not raising taxes on the middle class and being able to get it done quickly and so on. I've laid out clearly how we can get a health care plan covering everybody and have a Medicare option for those who want it, and we can get it done quickly. I've laid out a game plan as to how we can get things done. And I will be honest with you. I mean, he hadn't had much of a record of getting anything done in the United States House of Representatives or the Senate. I think he's passed 7, 8 bills. I don't know. He's worked with John McCain. We were talking about John earlier off the record here. And John, he did some good work on veterans. He's on the Veterans Committee. But I've gotten major things done. I'm able to cross the aisle and get things done. And so I think it's about, who can not only win, bring along a Senate and keep a House, the House of Representatives, but who can then get something done. And that's for the public to decide, obviously, but that's the case I'm trying to make.
So obviously Super Tuesday looms. You said last night that the endorsement of Congressman Jim Clyburn, the House Majority Whip, and the Dean of the South Carolina delegation, you said his endorsement, quote, brought you back in South Carolina. But I have to note, and I don't know if you know about this, but earlier in the day, he told CNN that the Biden campaign needs an overhaul to compete going forward, that you need to improve fundraising, you need to improve get out the vote efforts, and much more. Take a listen to a brief excerpt of this.
We need to do some retooling in the campaign, no question about that. I did not feel free to speak out about it or to even deal with it inside because I had not committed to his candidacy. I have now. I'm all in it. And I'm not going to sit idly by and watch people mishandle this campaign.
He's saying people are mishandling your campaign. This is a supporter. I'm sure he's even more verbose behind closed doors. Are you going to overhaul your campaign?
Well, it's about addition, not subtraction. We're bringing on each of these primaries and/or caucus states. When they go by, we bring on more and more people of real competence and consequence. And he's right about the fundraising. But for example, just last night we raised $5 million online. We've raised about $18 million so far just this month. Things are beginning to change, and he's right. And I listen to his counsel, and I listen to his counsel relative to how I can get better as well. And so this is about addition, not subtraction. And going into Super Tuesday, we have in Super Tuesday states 340 major endorsements. We don't have the troops on the ground because we haven't had the money to get that done. But we're going to do, I think, better than anybody expects. And then we move into states where I'm confident we're going to be able to win on primaries like Florida and Georgia and other places. So I think this is a marathon. We got to continue to improve. That's what it's all about. And I think that's what's happening.
I'm curious as to your take on the administration's response to the coronavirus crisis. We just learned of the first American death from the disease yesterday. What, if anything, do you think you would be doing differently if you were president right now?
I know what I would have done differently, what we did in the Ebola crisis. You know, I heard Vice President say they set up an office in the White House. We had an office in the White House. After us dealing with a pandemic that could have been incredibly dangerous and affected the world, Ebola, we set up an entire mechanism as to how to deal with future outbreaks of pandemic diseases. They eliminated that office when they came in play. They cut the funding for CDC. They did not, in fact, want to keep they tried to cut the funding in terms of HHS. And so, look, here, we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming back as far as January. They didn't even begin to prepare the testing kits. I mean, this is something that's kind of elementary. We talked about testing kits. We're now going to get them. Well, I don't want to talk down the possibility of us being able to do this well. But, you know, the idea that Donald Trump said just several days ago this was a Democratic hoax, what in God's name is he talking about? What in God's name is he talking about? Has he no shame? We're in a situation where, and I respect Vice President Pence and him being put in charge, but we should be hearing from the scientists. He mentions Fauci. Fauci's been there since Bush, all through presidents. We listened to him. He was a spokesperson. He was out in front. Let the scientists speak. Let them tell us what's going on. Let them prepare us. Let them prepare the country. Let them be the ones expanding how they're going to provide the protective gear for hospitals that are intake hospitals. And as you pointed out, Jake, the fact is that, you know, the other nations have had thousands of tests so far. What are we doing? Why are we just getting started? I would have not dismantled the organization we had put in place in the first place. I would have made sure we had American scientists in China, insisting we know what's happening in China. And I would be doing the same thing in Europe, where it's now spread. The idea that this is not a pandemic, that this is not worldwide, that it's not going to get worse, doesn't mean we're going to die, but it's going to get worse, is absolutely bizarre.